Hey everyone, so we're back for day 2 of Bible and Brew. Let's see here. There we go. So today we are gonna have our second cup of Bible and Brew. Thanks to @ChelseaRoadman for the fabulous assistance of coming up with a good hashtag idea to kind of get this going. So I'm just going to give my viewers a chance to join us. How do you feel about Islam? That's a pretty broad question. Do you have something more specific that you want to ask me while we're waiting on viewers? I'm not that first necessarily in all religions, since I'm a Catholic Christian. What if you told me what? Like, just be careful what you say there. I'm not gonna take any disrespect on this channel. Yeah, no, I don't agree with you. So if you don't agree with what this broadcast is going to be like, then I just ask you to kindly leave. Otherwise, I'm going to block you because I'm not going to accept comments. So anyway, I'm just going to give it another minute for any of my viewers to go ahead and jump on here. Well, I'm not really prepared to talk about Islam today. I am actually going to talk about my Bible and Brew second cup, which I've actually prepared for today, because that's what Bible and Brew is all about, is about jumping into the scriptures, not talking about Islam, so sorry. Alright, so today's readings, the daily readings comes from Acts chapter 5, verse 34 through 42, and the Gospel of John, chapter 6, 1 through 15. So, seriously, eyes watching, I told you I was not going to discuss other things other than my Bible and Brew, so sorry, you are being a pest. So I got rid of you. Sorry for all of you future viewers or those that you might watch on the replay. Wow, I am a little lost for my words right now. I'm a little distracted. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in for what I actually have prepared for you this morning. For those of you that don't know, I started this new series, Bible and Brew, yesterday because I'm struggling with my faith. I wouldn't say I'm struggling with my faith, but I'm in a state of spiritual dryness, and so after a lot of thought, I thought maybe waking up each morning and dedicating some time reading the daily readings, the daily scriptures from the lectionary, that might help me kind of get kick boosted back to where I kind of want to be. And so I came up with this idea along with help of Chelsea Roadman. You can follow her at Chelsea Roadman on any platform, but she would especially appreciate you to follow her on Periscope. She's really cool. She helped me to kind of come up with this idea, the whole hashtag Bible and Brew and such. And so starting yesterday, I got on here on Periscope, and I had a couple of lovely viewers that watched my broadcast, and I also had quite a few people that watched the replay, which was really nice. And I thought I would keep on going and try it again today. So, like I said, the readings today is from Acts and the Gospel of John. So let me just go ahead and get started. So, in today's first reading, we continue to learn about the apostles' journey. Now, this is after Jesus had been crucified, and the apostles had already been picked up by the Sanhedrin and thrown into prison. And between yesterday's readings and today, what the lectionary has kind of left out that we kind of had to fill in the blanks for ourselves. Those passages, the passage that was not included was the one that stated that the angel of the Lord came in the middle of the night or at night and opened the prison door, the gate of the prison, and told the apostles that they needed to leave and they needed to go to the temple area to continue spreading the word of God. So, in today's reading, the apostles' adventure picks up with them yet again before the Sanhedrin. And perhaps to their dismay or their surprise, one of the elder Sanhedrin gentlemen, they name him, let's see, what is his name? Gamaliel. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Gamaliel. He's a teacher of the law and respected by the people. He's a Pharisee, and he speaks up because the Sanhedrin is talking about having the apostles killed because they just continue to teach about Jesus and God and continue to do Jesus's works beyond beyond Jesus' grave, as you could say. And so the Sanhedrin is just totally lost it, right? I mean, they're just so upset with the apostles. And so they're just like, oh, heck, like, we're just going to kill you because you're breaking the law. Like, we've told you not to do this. We've put you in prison. You've escaped. But to the apostles, perhaps surprise, or I wouldn't say luck because it's God's will, right? This Gamaliel, the Pharisee who's a teacher, or elder, as I like to call him, speaks up to the Sanhedrin and convinces them not to kill the apostles because it is his fear that, because of his experience, that if you take an action against God himself, if you take an action against God, then the result would be a battle against God himself. So what Gamaliel is saying is he believes that the apostles are doing God's work, and if the Sanhedrin gets in the way of that, then more harm is going to come out of it than good. So instead of the apostles being killed by the Sanhedrin, they choose to have him flogged and then they release them. And perhaps this is ironic. I mean, this isn't the, let me back up. The flogging of the apostles just gives them more energy than anything. Like, I don't know, but like when I was a little kid and I got spanked, which only thankfully happened only a couple of times, it's like after once or twice, like I learned my lesson. But the apostles got flogged and they essentially like left their flogging like with big smiles on their face and like with energy, and they're just like jumping for joy, like yeehaw, another great day and spreading the faith, and it's like, what? I don't remember ever being spanked and leaving with a smile on my face and so happy that I got smacked. I mean, right? Like, no. So when I think about this, like, I think about my own encounters when I come across people who don't agree with me or don't have the same faith. Um, Unfortunately, gosh, I'm thinking out loud here. It's almost like feel like I was being put to the test, right? Because that very first viewer that you saw me interacting with here on this broadcast was right away came on and he wanted me to know what my thoughts were about Islam, and I just kind of like, hey, at first I was like, okay, what exactly are you asking me? But then I asked him to clarify or be more specific in his question, or he or she, and then they wouldn't. And it's like, okay, this is frustrating because I'm here to talk about the scriptures, not to talk about Islam. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not prepared to talk about Islam. I'm prepared to talk about the scriptures. And then, that person just came back with me, well, what about paganism? What about this? What about that? And I was just like, nope, sorry, I'm blocking you because you're being a pest. So right there, I probably have demonstrated how I feel when people come at me bashing me for my faith. And even though that person probably wasn't bashing me, but they were being disrespectful to me. And the fact that I'm trying to share the scriptures with you and I'm trying to, trying to get something out of this, right? And so I don't like confrontation. I mean, that's just point blank. So, the apostles coming out of this and just, energized. It's like the scripture specifically said that they came out of it energized. I'm looking for the quote here. They said all day long, both at the temple and in their homes, they did not stop teaching and proclaiming the Messiah Jesus. I mean that's verse 42. They left the presence of the Sanhedrin rejoicing. There we go. They used the word rejoicing. I mixed in the word energized. I believe that came out of the footnotes that I was reading out of the Bible. Rejoicing, energized. I don't get it. The way I see it is, you probably recall the scripture. Jesus says, when somebody, slaps you on the cheek, turn the other cheek to them or whatever and let them slap. Essentially, like, there's a deeper meaning to that. I'm not going to go into that because I'd have to change my whole broadcast for you. That'd totally take me in another direction. But essentially, that's what I think about when they say that the apostles are rejoicing, or in my case, that they got energized from this. Like, to me, it's like they just got slapped in the face and then they turn their other cheek and let them slap the other side too. It's like a double whammy. Like, boom, boom, whoa, hello, no thank you. So, from a more personal note, I guess, this tells me that we have to know ourselves and our limitations. And I know that I myself am not a very charismatic person. I'm not sure if evangelical is really the correct way to use the term. But I am not one to go out to the street corners and preach the good news. I mean, sitting here in front of camera and broadcasting this to anyone that wants to watch it, I mean, that's kind of like the extent of what I feel empowered to be able to do. I do believe, however, that the apostles are modeling how we should approach these matters, though. I mean, we should just take it in stride, Either you agree or don't. If you want to be confrontational and you want to throw a punch, or in the case of, that viewer just throwing words at me, being rude, then you know what? That's not me. I'm not going to get in that confrontation with you. So, anyway, I hope you all remember that when you join my broadcast that you should bring a cup of brew. I mean, after all, this broadcast is called Bible and Brew. And by the way, you can hashtag it, hashtag Bible and Brew to spell out the and word. I also blog about the readings. So yesterday's blog you can find on my website, my blogger.com. So katieholscher.blogspot.com, KatieHolscher.blogspot.com, blogspot. And you can read my blog. So if you'd like to kind of see how I write, as far as the reflection and the meditation, please feel free to check that out. Today's probably won't go up until this afternoon or evening, just because I take a good amount of time preparing and putting my words together. So anyway, on that note, let's go ahead and take a look at the gospel. Now, if you haven't done so already, let me tell you that today's gospel, although it's coming from the Gospel of John, this gospel is the multiplication of the loaves, or otherwise known as the feeding of the 5,000. Now, I found it, you might find it interesting that the feeding of the 5,000, multiplication of the loaves, is the only miracle that can be found in all four Gospels. Kind of cool, right? It's the only miracle that is found in all four Gospels. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all have the multiplication of the loaves or the feeding of the 5,000 miracle. Something that significance of this miracle is the very fact that this miracle is to have believed to be like the showing of the anticipation of the Eucharist of the final banquet in the kingdom. So it is essentially like giving us a preview of what the heavenly banquet is going to be like. The Eucharist is the holy, my brain just turned off, is holy food. It's nourishment. The Eucharist is nourishment for us. It is Jesus. And so this miracle, feeding of the 5,000, is a preview of what the Eucharist and the final banquet, like the ultimate feast in heaven, is going to be like. Another interesting thing, now I'm getting theological on you, I know, but I thought this was all very interesting. I am a trained theologian, I guess you could say. I tend to say that I'm not a theology guru, but I am theology and pastoral ministry trained, so it kind of just comes out of me, but sometimes. Another interesting fact, so that kind of, this fact about the miracle, it looks forward, but this miracle also looks backwards. It looks backwards in the very fact that the feeding of Israel with manna at the time of the Exodus. So it recalls or alludes to that feeding of Israel with the manna at the time of the Exodus. And I don't have the passage in front of me, but if you want to see what I'm talking about, go back to the book in the Bible, Exodus, and you can find it there. Hey Sonny, you joined, yay! Anyway, we're talking about the Gospel of John. Today's Gospel is the feeding of the 5,000, or the meditation, or multiplication, not meditation. We're doing some meditation maybe, but the multiplication of the loaves, talking about how it's the only miracle found in all four Gospels. And we're just talking about the significance and like the meaning behind this gospel. And I was just about to go even deeper into theology and talk about what the numbers 5 and 2. So in the Gospels, it says specifically that there were 5 loaves and 2 fish multiplied. So I was just about to take all of my viewers on a little journey of what that means. And this is going to get deep. Let me just warn you. Let me get a drink here. So, Sonny, I hope you have your coffee this morning. I hope you have that brew. That was like the number one important thing to come and participate in Vital and Brew. You have your coffee. So I hope you have your brew. So anyway, okay, so the 5 loaves. Now, this interpretation comes, yep, got your coffee. All right, great. So this interpretation actually comes from Saint Anthony of Padua. So you might be familiar with Saint Anthony as a saint that a lot of people pray to, like when you lose something. Well, in the Bible, we use a lot of allegory, like a way to explain something. I'm like losing an idea of how to explain what an allegory is, but hopefully if you don't know what an allegory is, you can just like Google it when this is over. But it's so the 5 loaves, going back to St. Anthony of Padua's explanation of the 5 loaves, this is what he says. He said they represent the 5 refreshments for the soul, or the 5 books of Moses. So I'm just going to list them. I'm not going to talk about them, but I'll list them for you, and you can go on and do your own research to go further if you'd like. But the first is the rebuking of sin by contrition. The second is the bearing of sin and confession. 3, the abasement and humiliation and satisfaction. 4, the zeal for souls and preaching. And then the 5th is the sweetness of contemplating our heavenly home. And the big thing here, hey Chelsea, yay, you joined. Well, Chelsea, you missed out. I just got really, really deep, but you can go back and watch the replay, so I'm not too worried. I'm gonna keep moving because I do have to take off soon to Columbus. But anyway, so the 5 loaves, according to Saint Anthony of Padua, I just stated them all, but the 5 loaves provided much more than physical needs, but the true spiritual food. Cool, you'll watch the replay. I figured you would. You're good like that. So they're not just physical needs, but true spiritual food. So why would I say physical needs? Well, what I mean by that is in the Gospels, it specifically says, I got distracted by Chelsea's comment, you know how I do. It specifically mentions the kind of loaves. It says barley loaves. Now, if we go theological, sorry, I'm flipping my book in front of you, that barley loaves are actually food of the poor. So we know that the people that are being fed are poor, and hence the barley loaves. Anyway, okay. Now, let's look at the reason for 2 fish. Now, we know anything in the Bible, numbers are significant. We know the number 3 is significant because of the Trinity, 7 because of the story of creation. There's all kinds of other numbers. The book of numbers, not the book of numbers, but you really want to go numbers crazy, then read the book of Revelation. I actually have read it. I've studied it for in grad school. 8 because of the new beginnings. Yeah, see, so numbers are important. So we have the 5 loaves, which I just talked about, representing the 5 refreshments of the soul, or the 5 books of Moses. And then in the multiplication of the loaves, we have the 2 fish. So the 2 fish are actually brought up from the sea, and they represent Moses and Peter. So as we know from our Bible study, Moses was taken from the waters. And then Peter, of course, was a fisherman, and then he was selected to become an apostle. So the fish provide leadership so that we can orient ourselves to God. So, kind of cool. So the 5 loaves and the 2 fish specifically mean cool things. I guess the last thing that I could just mention, I got my still quality assurance cup again. The last thing that I could just mention, I already kind of briefly talked about the barley loaves as their food for the poor, is the wages. In the gospel, it talks about not having enough money to feed the large crowd, because the crowd has followed Jesus. They've come from all over, all the towns, to follow Jesus because they've heard about him, or maybe they've already seen him talk and they want to be with him. And so all of these people are coming, and that's how they get into this situation where they need the food in the first place. And Jesus, in John's interpretation, Jesus says to the disciples, in a way to test them, he says, well, where can we buy bread? And the disciples, are like, well, it would take a day's wages to buy that much food for all these people. And of course, Jesus was testing him because he knew that he was just going to multiply them and have tons of food, plenty of food. Nobody was going to starve. So I guess it's just significant to mention, there's my nails again, my autism nails, Jamberry nails, katiebell.jamberry.com. It's just important to mention that a day's wages was literally a denarii. So anytime, the Gospels refer to a denarii, that's a Roman word for a wage, and a day's wages, that's how much it would have cost to feed 5,000 people in that day. So trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to say about today's gospel or first reading. I had plenty of notes. It took more than an hour for me to kind of prepare this morning. I hope it's been enjoyable. I hope it's been helpful. Hopefully all of my replay viewers will get something out of it. Remember that the hashtag is literally the hashtag symbol, Bible, the word and spelled out, and brew. So Bible and brew. Today is the second cup. You can join me. Do you know what that equates to in modern day money? I don't. I would have to look that up. Maybe I could look that up, and if I can find the answer, I can just mention it in tomorrow's broadcast. Remind me of that later, Chelsea. That's a good question. I'll see if I can find that answer. Or your blog. True, true. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Chelsea. I also write a blog. You can find it at katieholscher.blogspot.com. And up until this past week or so, I haven't written in like a couple years because I was focused on a blog that I was doing for my church. But that kind of dwindled. I was the only writer, and it was hard to keep up with that blog. So I've gone back to doing a personal blog. And so my goal, in addition to doing the Bible and Brew broadcast every day, is also to write a blog about. Thanks, Chelsea. She says it's good to write a blog about the daily readings. Perhaps my meditation of them or my reflection, just something for you to hopefully sink your teeth into. I can't talk, so I think it's time to go. What's the address? For my blog, it's katieholscher.blogspot.com, katieholscher.blogspot.com. And in case you don't catch my replay, you can also, yes, thank you, Chelsea. That's it right there. I'm also attempting, it's going to take a while, but I'm attempting to load these broadcasts up to my YouTube channel. You can find my YouTube channel at Holscher Katie. Yeah, at Holscher Katie, I guess. I think that's accurate. I don't know. Just search for my name, Katie Holscher. You should be able to find it. So anyway, I think that's going to do us for Bible and Brew today, second cup. I hope to see you tomorrow for Bible and Brew third cup and see what the scriptures have to offer. You can also embed the Catch Me backups to your blog. Oh, that's a good idea. And Catch Me is not working. You know, Periscope is annoying me. We'll have to talk about that. But anyway, thanks for viewing, and thank you, you replayers. I hope you enjoyed your Bible and your brew today. Take care.